How's it going, everybody? BlueSwim here, and today I'm going to be sounding the alarm on a potentially dangerous Nintendo Switch 1 and 2 firmware glitch that I've encountered over the last month. So back in July, I posted on Bluesky about an incident that happened with my Splatoon 3 Nintendo Switch OLED. It had been sitting on the dock in my home theater for a few weeks, unplayed, hadn't done anything with it. And when I went to retrieve it, the system was very warm to the touch. Like it had been playing, a graphically intense game for quite some time. Except it hadn't. And when I took it out of the dock, I believe it normally turns on the screen when I undock it. I'm not sure, I might have the settings set differently. Can't remember. But anyways, I pick it up out of the dock, and screen doesn't come on. And I hit the power button, and instead of opening up to the lock screen, it goes through the initial boot phase for the system. So after that incident, I kept it away from that dock, I charged it elsewhere. As far as I could tell, everything was fine. Once I powered it up and let it kind of run for a few minutes, it started cooling down. Everything was normal. So fast forward to yesterday as of recording this, and I did a 5-hour stream on YouTube with WWE 2K25, Street Fighter 6, and Donkey Kong Bonanza. Everything was fine. Perfectly good. The stream ended around 7 o'clock my time, and I came back to undock my Switch 2 at somewhere around 9 o'clock. It had been 2 hours, plenty of time for the system to cool down from an extended session like that. Except the same thing happened with the Switch 2 this time. The system was running very warm. I picked it up out of the dock, the screen did not turn on. I hit the power button once, and the system starts booting up. I can't make sense of it. The only thing I can think is that there is some sort of a major firmware glitch that's affecting all the Switch systems, regardless as to whether it's a Switch 1 or Switch 2. Here's some of the different elements that separate each of the incidents. First, obviously, different Switch systems. The Switch OLED versus the Switch 2. Second, different docks. Switch 1 dock, Switch 2 dock. Also, not to leave anything out, completely different hardware generations. You're talking Switch 1 versus Switch 2. So that should, in theory, be completely different. Next was the fact that the rooms that this happened in were two different places. One was my home theater, the other was my office. Also, recent activity. Switch 1 hadn't been used in a couple of weeks. Switch 2 had an extended gameplay session. Both of them still had problems. Last but not least was the connected accessories. The Switch 1 dock did not have anything plugged into it, if I recall correctly. The Switch 2 had a PowerA Joy-Con charger plugged into the USB port on it. That's a pretty significant list of differences. Now, here's the common elements between the two, and this is why I think it might be a firmware issue. First and foremost, the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 essentially have the same build of the firmware going on, the 20 point whatever firmware. So if you remember, back around the Switch 2 launch, the Switch 1 got a UI refresh in the 20.0 update. So essentially, both generations are using the same firmware. So that's the first common element. And the second one is that at the time of the incidents, the systems were docked. That right there says it could be a charging issue, it could be some sort of a handshake issue between the dock itself and the system. Something, I think, is going wrong with that connection, in theory. I'm not a tech expert. There could be some other element I'm not aware of, but that's my theory on why this is happening while it's docked. Something's going wrong there. Now, the next common element is the fact that Wi-Fi was most likely enabled on both systems when these things happened. That could mean that maybe something is going wrong with the update download process. Maybe? I don't know. There's a lot of question marks here, and unfortunately, I don't have a lot of the answers. I can just provide my experience with these particular situations. Now, the last common element is the fact that these things happened in generally the same location. Different rooms, but the same place. Maybe there was a spike of some sort, maybe in power or something like that. Possibly something's getting tripped up. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, I'm just theorizing on that too. I don't know if that's even possible to do because I haven't had any other problems charging up all my other devices. But for some reason, the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 have both had an incident like this. That's the only other common element, and I think most likely there is some sort of a firmware glitch going on. So in closing, just be careful. Maybe don't leave your Switch or Switch 2 docked and unattended. It's one thing if you're playing on the TV or charging it up, that's fine, but maybe when you aren't using it, take it off the dock. Maybe turn on airplane mode as well. Might not be a bad idea. But, continue to enjoy your Switch, and if you've had this problem to some degree, let me know in the comments, and maybe we can raise awareness on this issue and hopefully get Nintendo's attention on it. Because this is a potentially dangerous problem. You can't have electronics with a battery in it getting super hot when they aren't working properly. And if you enjoyed this video, found it educational, informative, or just want to say thank you, just drop a like and maybe share it with your friends on social media so that if they have a Switch and they might potentially hit this problem, they know to look out for it. That's the important thing. Well, this has been BlueSwim, and you can check me out on Bluesky at blueswim.bsky.social, on Twitter /X at FomosAmofo. You can check out my Patreon page, which is free, I might add, at patreon.com/blueswim. I stream on Twitch on occasion, twitch.tv/FomosAmofo. And of course, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@BlueSwimTV. Take care.